So I have a question for you. Is Hearthstone's new game mode, Duels, worth it? And I'm going to talk about that a lot in this video. Various points made in both directions. But the short answer, if you don't want to watch the whole video, is this. Is it worth it? Not right now. Maybe later. And maybe not later. So what does that mean exactly? Well, let's talk about it. With Duels, just got introduced last week. If you haven't heard, it's basically PvP dungeon runs. And it had two major problems that the community have pushed back pretty hard on. You guys have shared a lot of thoughts there. Number one is that it's locked right now behind a pre-order if you want to join early access and start playing it today. So you have to spend $40 on the Dark Moon Fair pre-order if you want to get into Duels. If that's not something you normally do, you're not going to get to play Duels as soon as other people who are willing to spend that $40. So that's why it's absolutely not worth it right now if you're not already pre-ordering Dark Moon Fair. So for a lot of people who are free to play or just don't care about Dark Moon Fair, they're not going to get to try out Duels at all until it hits full release later on in November. Now, beyond that, there's a big second problem, which is that Duels uses your own cards. You have to build a 16 or 15 card base deck with your own collection, which means unlike Battlegrounds where anybody can just jump in and compete, with Duels you have to have cards. Now that may not be a problem for most people if they have a pretty good standard format collection these days, but specifically Duels utilizes a separate rotation that is specific to the season of Duels, which is currently Wizard Duels. And that includes right now 2 wild format sets, Curse of Naxxramas and One Night in Karazhan. So if you're somebody who had disenchanted your wild cards in the past, you don't have access to those, you can't use them right now in Duels without recrafting them, which is going to feel pretty bad if you thought you'd never need those cards again. So that's really a two-sided problem. Using cards at all is a problem for some people who just don't want to have to craft a whole different set of small decks to compete in a different game mode on top of what's happening in standard format. Of course, there will be some crossover, but you might need unique specific decks, particularly for at least 7 classes if you want to make sure you always have a good base deck when you queue into Duels, because you can only choose from 4 of the classes at a given time. And then also you've just got the problem of these wild format sets as well. So what are my thoughts on these two different concerns the community's brought up? Well, number one, early access. I think it sucks. I think the game should be open to everybody to play. Let the people play. That's going to encourage people to have fun in the game mode. That's going to encourage pack sales. Locking it behind the Dark Moon Fair pre-order to me just feels wrong. I think it's much, much better, and you're more likely to sell things if you let people go in and have fun. They're going to enjoy the crap out of it. That's how you build a successful model. Not this sort of FOMO or, early access gating where people just feel like they have to get in to try it, and then maybe make a purchase that they regret. So it's 100% not worth $40 just to play Duels for a few weeks early, which means you're just kind of punishing people for a few weeks while they don't get to play and get to watch other people have fun. Now, on the other side of things, when it comes to using your own cards, I have a little bit more of a nuanced take that probably differs from the community a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily problematic that Duels requires you to use your own cards. We do have some other game modes like Arena and Battleground that don't require to use your cards, so I understand why people attach to that difference. Like Duels looks very different than those, and it feels weird. But I consider Duels on equal footing with something like standard format or wild format. You use your cards there. Hearthstone is ultimately a card game that you have to collect cards for, so it doesn't really bother me necessarily that you have to use your own cards. I think I'd be fine with that. But I am a little more troubled by the fact that there are not only wild format cards that are required to have a full set option in Duels, but beyond that, the rotation model for Duels is separate than that from standard format, which means it's going to rotate, I guess, roughly every 4 seasons. It sounds like once per expansion, which means there's going to be new wild format expansions coming into the rotation every 4 months instead of once a year where you're kind of updating your collection. So you never really know what expansions are going to be in the next set, what cards you're going to need. Are they going to come back again to Duels a year later? Do I need to keep these cards? Can I disenchant them? It doesn't follow the predicted tried and true rules of standard versus wild, where everybody has pretty clear declarations for what's safe, what's not, how long you're going to have access to these cards. On top of all of that, right now, you can't actually even buy Naxxramas or One Night in Karazhan with gold. You have to either craft the cards very inefficiently or spend real money on those purchases. So for this particular rotation of duels, it's almost extra hard to get those cards because you can't just go into the shop, buy packs, etc. So when you tally all that up, the monetization model for duels is pretty punishing to players. And I'll say this, like if you're going to focus on duels, if you think that's your primary game mode, you love dungeon runs, it's probably going to be fine for you. It would be maybe a little worse than standard format, but I bet you can get by. You don't have to use fully optimized decks because the treasures in the run itself are going to be carrying your decks in most cases. I think you'd still be able to compete. So I'm sure you could have a lot of fun in duels specifically. It's when you're somebody who's trying to play across various modes and trying to do a little bit of everything that's going to get more and more prohibitive for you. Now, that said, there are actually some teasers that things are going to get worse. Now, we have seen in duels, there are some locked hero powers and signature treasures. I don't know how many details are out on how those things are going to be unlocked, but I did see a quote specifically in an interview with a couple of the Hearthstone designers that said they like the idea of unlocking a unique hero power by owning a specific card, which makes it sound like these unlockables are going to be tied to your collection. Like you're going to have to meet certain demands. Like, you know, I'm guessing, say, if you got like Professor Slate, you might have to own the Professor Slate legendary to unlock a Professor Slate hero power. And that's adding another layer of restrictiveness to the game mode, which I don't totally understand because duels already, you have to have cards. It's using your collection. So it's like double dipping almost on the monetization, where even if you're not playing Professor Slate in a deck, you have to craft Professor Slate in order to unlock the hero power. I feel like if that is indeed true, that will be fairly disastrous for people who suddenly have to craft cards just to unlock things as opposed to actually using the cards. I don't like that idea of double dipping at all. So those are the big concerns. Now, that said, I think it's, you know, would be a disservice not to say that I'm having a ton of fun playing duels. And it feels like the people who are actually able to play right now are really enjoying the game mode. Now, I will say that there's a little bit of selection bias there. It's people who pre-ordered that generally like Hearthstone more. It's content creators who have a lot of upside to having these, you know, new kinds of content. Like I love making the videos. So we're definitely biased. Keep that in mind. But I think there's a lot of great reports for duels. Like even people like Dexter, he was like, I love duels. I'm addicted to Hearthstone again. I saw Slissa talking about how she was late to a stream because she was playing duels, not Battlegrounds, which is her general game mode. So I think once people get in there and you get to experience the crazy treasures and the absurd high rolls and the just absolute shenanigans that you can pull off when you get that perfect deck, it becomes a very enjoyable game mode. So it might be worth it to play it again if that's what you really want out of the game, if you're willing to commit to that collection style, or maybe if you don't care about your decks being optimized, this could very much still be the game mode for you. And that's why I issued a maybe at the beginning of this video, because for a lot of people, I think this could be their main way to play Hearthstone, and it'll probably be worth it for them. So that's a maybe in the positive direction. That said, there will still be a lot of others who feel locked out by the monetization. It feels too restricted for them, feels impossible to compete at a high level, so they avoid duels. Those are the people who are the maybe not. And then, of course, we've also had this other new game mode that's being teased before the expansion after Dark Moon Fair. We just got this game where they're already teasing another game mode. So is that going to be another one that's collection-based? How is that going to affect people playing duels? Should you wait to commit to that game mode instead of this one? I don't know. So there's still a lot up in the air when it comes to duels and whether or not it's going to be something people really commit to, whether the community buys into it, whether there's a healthy player base, whether the monetization's there. So really the statement I wanted to make in this video is I do not think you should pre-order duels right now. Wait until it's open to everybody, or you maybe get like a giveaway or something to get access. There's going to be a lot of drops on Twitch in particular where you'll just get access on your account. As long as you're watching on Twitch with a linked account, try it out, see how you feel. Wait till there's more details on the unlocks and monetization. Wait to see how the balance community really commit to it, and then make a decision. But for now, don't pre-order. Absolutely not worth $40 just to test it out. Watch some videos, watch some streams, get an idea of how it feels, and then wait and go from there. And then we'll just have to see how things feel. I have a big kind of gut feeling it's going to go south instead of north when it comes to the way we have to spend money to play duels. I'm probably still going to play it and enjoy it as a content creator. I'm hoping you guys will enjoy videos even if you're not playing it personally. But I have concerns, let's put it that way. But I definitely want the game mode to succeed. I think it'd be really good for Hearthstone. I know so many people love dungeon runs. This would be a great outlet for them. So I'm really rooting for it. I want you guys to like it. But in good conscience, sometimes it's hard to recommend these things because I know for a lot of people, it's just not going to make sense. That said, really curious to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I know a lot of you have some big takes on this one in particular. Thanks much as always for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. Of course, I always appreciate those subscribes. But you know what? YouTube probably show you the video either way, so who really cares? That said, love you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, game on.